Hello, I'm Nathan P. Butler, author of a Saga on Home Video and host of From the Star Wars Home Video Library here on YouTube, and this is Star Wars Home Video Year by Year. This time we take a look at 1979. I must say, kind of partial to 1979, it was the year I was born. Awesome. Well, awesome for me, at least, right? So, we've seen here in the last couple of years, 1977, 1978, that the original Star Wars film, which we now know as A New Hope once it gets the episode title added to it in 81, that film got released in theaters in 77, made a splash, and even got a re-release with some fixed audio in 1978. There wasn't really much, though, to speak of for Star Wars on sort of the nascent home media market. VHS was relatively new, Beta was relatively new, heck, Laserdisc didn't hit until 78, CED wasn't even out yet at this point. There just wasn't a whole lot of home viewing of Star Wars stuff. But there were some glimmers of hope, as I call it here and in A Saga on Home Video, that we saw on Super 8 from Kin Films, as selected scenes in different formats, and through the Kenner Star Wars Movie Viewer for kids, where you put in cartridges and crank them to be able to see small bits of the film. And of course, in other regions, we saw stuff like the Mini Cinex and whatnot. But thus far, no releases on any of the major formats of the time, or what would become the major formats, or what we might refer to, or I always refer to, as the first or the great format war in the US. The battle for supremacy between VHS, Beta, Laserdisc, and CED. Poor, neglected CED. Well, it's in 1979 that two important things happen. Again, on the theatrical front, we see another re-release of A New Hope, still called Star Wars at the time, in theaters. It is its third time in theaters, its second re-release, and this time with a preview of the upcoming film, The Empire Strikes Back, coming in 1980. But the second big thing that happens is some new Star Wars releases on home video, which owe themselves to a special that aired in 1977. In September of 1977, about 4 months or so after the film was released in theaters, ABC aired a behind-the-scenes special called The Making of Star Wars as Told by C-3PO and R2-D2, usually just called The Making of Star Wars these days. Little hour-long with commercials type special, basically talking about the film. It included R2-D2 and C-3PO kind of acting as hosts at different points in some original footage, lots of interviews and whatnot, behind-the-scenes imagery and such, and that was in late 77. Well, it turns out that Star Wars would finally make its way to VHS and Beta, the magnetic tape formats of the four great format war formats of this era, in 1979. But it would not be through the film itself, it would be through that behind-the-scenes special getting a home media release. So in the US, we got a VHS release of The Making of Star Wars, with its full title, as told by C-3PO and R2-D2 here, from Magnetic Video. It would eventually be absorbed into what eventually would be 20th Century Fox Video, and then CBS Fox Video, and so on and so on and so on. We'll see name changes quite a bit. It was also released in the US, similarly, on Beta. If you're not familiar with Beta, and it is Beta, Beta Max was a Sony version of it, and Sony did develop it, but Beta is the format. So we have VHS and Beta, and these were basically just a no-frills version of being able to watch that special at home. Was it the same as watching the film? Of course not, but you got to see more. And it was on your TV, not through a projector or on a little handheld cranking device for kids. You could actually see a bit more and get more hyped and more frustrated that you couldn't watch the film at home yet, and maybe it would drive you to go back out to the theaters at some point. Now, as far as this goes, we do sometimes note foreign releases here on the channel. I do that a lot with From the Star Wars Home Video Library. I'll try to do it from time to time here. I should note here that in Canada, similar regional market to the US, there was a French version of it, a French dubbed version of it. And then in the UK and some other regions, you also got VHS and Beta releases. I'm assuming there was Beta for Canada too, but I only have a VHS to show you here. And the packaging did differ. But if you see this packaging out there, it is effectively the same program as this. But remember, when collecting anything from this particular era, region does make a difference. There's no region locking, region 1, region A kind of stuff like we would see with DVD and Blu-ray later. But format matters thanks to different standards in different countries or different regions. NTSC, which you'll find for the US and such. In Europe, primarily, you will see PAL, that's P-A-L, and at least in this era, in France, you would see SECAM, S-E-C-A-M. So you can collect these from other regions, but if you have a player from a given region that's not an all-region player, some of these will not play for you. But yes, the first shots had been fired in the Great Format War for Star Wars between VHS and Beta. The question now, how long is it going to take for Laserdisc to enter the fray? And still, what is up with that weird format of CED? We'll see those soon. Next time, Star Wars continues to trickle out onto the home market as the second film in the series, which was really the fifth film in the series, would hit theaters, because next time we take a look at 1980.